everyone that is here today. Everyone welcome to this first seminar called Teaching Entrepreneurship at the University, a challenge for the teacher of the 21st century, which aims to publicize and disseminate how entrepreneurship skills have been inserted in university classrooms. To begin, we would like to welcome the authorities, speakers, and attendees of this event, which consists of two major moments. First, we will have two talks to learn about experiences of innovation in training from the international perspective. And then we will have a discussion on experiences in entrepreneurship training from different disciplinary areas. Before we begin, we would like to invite the Director of Innovation and Entrepreneurship of Pontifical University of Valparaiso, the organizing university of this seminar, Mr. Pablo Zamora, who will give some opening remarks. Thank you, Aneris. Welcome everyone today, our speakers, of course. For our university, this moment is very important, and we pretend, or we aim to develop the education and knowledge for entrepreneurship. We are convinced that from the different disciplines and inside the classroom, it is possible to systematize and share our successful experiences. And with no doubt, we will have a beginning today that will make us project in the networks of sharing and helping each other, and of course to start integrating in different dimensions in our university. For the direction of innovation and entrepreneurship, student formation is a key element to reach the full development of our young professionals. So we hope that this event will be useful for everyone that is here today. And the most important thing that we are going to achieve is to share our experiences, our successful experiences from everyone that is going to talk today. So we wish you the best and all of success. And thank you very much for being here with us today. Thank you. Thank you, Director, for your words. Now we will open the room for the speakers called Innovating and Training from an International Perspective. We will have two attendees today. Elin McCallum, she's the director and co-founder of Bantani Education, a Belgium-based nonprofit organization that works to foster entrepreneurial learning and creativity. And also Gabriela Carrasco, she is the director of 2811, an international platform for social and ecological change that promotes the regenerative development of communities and harmony with the planet. She is also a consultant for Ashoka in Latin America, an institution that promotes a society in which people have the motivation and tools to be agents of positive change. Elin, Gabriela, thank you very much for being here and share your experiences with us. First, we will give the microphone to Elin so she can make her or have her presentation. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me all okay. I'm here calling in from Wales in the UK, and I'm really honoured to be invited to this seminar to discuss and share our work at Bantani Education and a little bit of an insight into perhaps the work that we've also done in partnership with the Pontifical University of Valparaiso. So can everybody hear me? And the next challenge, I'm now going to share my screen. Let's fingers crossed that works. Can everybody see my screen okay?
Sí, recordarle a los participantes que tienen que en el
Please,
botón.
everyone, remember that you can press the button for the interpretation. You can press Spanish, so you can hear the interpretation in real time. It was just a reminder. Now I give the floor to Elin.
Of course, and apologies for my Spanish not being quite good, but I'm very pleased to be here. Now, I'm Elin. I'm from Bantani Education. Bantani means away we go in Welsh. We're a non-profit organisation and we're based in Belgium, but we work across the world, mainly in Europe, but with some valued partners also in Latin America. And we work on entrepreneurial learning. We really want to transform learning, to support educators to develop the entrepreneurial capacity, mindset, potential, spirit of their learners. And we do that across lots of different areas of education, primary, secondary, youth work, non-formal, as well as adult education and within the employment environment. So if you want to have a look at Bantani Education, go to bantani.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. Please do connect. But today I really want to talk about the background to our work, what we underpin our work with, because I think that's very interesting. And it's something that we've connected with the Pontifical University of Valparaiso on. So today I wanted to really talk about, we are looking at a world in which change is constant, where there is really surprising activities, events, actions happening around the world, that young people are going into this future where there are only certain things they can be sure of. We know that they need to be adaptable, versatile. They need to understand that change will happen and to be able to deal with that change when it does. They need to be able to react positively, to react with the knowledge that they have the skills and the experience to deal with this just a little bit, to be able to be resilient to that change. And for us at Bantani, we believe that entrepreneurial learning can be a support for that, supporting learners, supporting young people to be able to understand themselves, their capacity and the skills that they have to be entrepreneurial in the face of change, to look at the opportunities, to be resilient to the difficulties and the challenges, and to see their way through that and forward into the future, to be able to challenge some of the things that we don't like, that they don't like, to be able to see opportunities to change that and create impact in their lives. Entrepreneurial learning for us is underpinned by this Entrecomp model. Entrecomp was developed back in 2016 in Europe, but is now being adopted by many countries across the world and many educators of many different levels, from primary right through to PhD. And Entrecomp is really a common understanding of what being entrepreneurial is. Entrepreneurship education, entrepreneurial education, what we call it, has often been very associated with business. But now we need to understand that this being entrepreneurial, this spirit, this mindset, is actually a key competence. It's a key set of life skills that learners need to move forward. It is about their ability to have ideas, creative ideas, and turn those ideas into action, into value for others, different kinds of value, community value, cultural value, social value, economic value, but value for others, ideas into action. We see this process, this entrepreneurial action, as a real opportunity within education. It's about looking to help learners to see their way towards securing and creating value in their learning and being able to transfer that into their lives, into their employment, into self-employment, to have the skills to be adaptable, resilient, to be able to contribute to sustainability, to be innovative, to foster this resilience within their employment environment, and to enhance their community, be that through cultural, social, or economic value. Because for learners, these competencies that we're talking about, this being entrepreneurial, these are the skills they need in so many different situations. They need these skills to work with others, to suggest solutions, to be able to be resilient, to handle setbacks, to apply their knowledge, their financial numeracy in the real world, to communicate ideas, to contribute to community as active and responsible citizens. And these are the competencies within EntreComp that we talk about. This list of 15 competencies across 3 areas, from ideas and opportunities, spotting those opportunities, having the vision and valuing the idea, understanding the sustainable impact of that idea, taking that idea and understanding the resources, your own resources, your skills, self-efficacy and understanding of your own strengths and your own abilities, and then other resources, material resources, money, a printer, people resources. Who do you need? What other skills do you not have that you need from others? And being able to mobilize others to help you, to support you in these ideas, and then taking the initiative, putting that idea into action. These are the competencies that we're talking about when we talk about being entrepreneurial. And at international level, these are becoming more and more prevalent. This, whatever you call them, 21st century skills, non-cognitive skills, soft skills, employability skills. In Bantani, we call them entrepreneurial skills, but we also call them life skills. But we realized that these skills were something that perhaps weren't being delivered through education. And so we came up with EntreComp Edu, a project with a number of different partners across 6 countries in Europe. And also you see here the logo of the Pontifical University in Chile. We made a strategic partnership with them when they saw the potential of this program, because we wanted to help teachers, educators, to really understand the professional skills that they needed, the knowledge, the pedagogical skills, and the confidence that they need to deliver those entrepreneurial competencies in their teaching for their students. Because it's not about a teacher being entrepreneurial. It's not about a student going into a business and seeing how it works. No, it's about these skills being developed across education in all subjects. So we created EntreComp Edu as a framework and a training course that really helped teachers to see what they were doing already that was developing some of these competencies, and how they could enhance, develop that further. So in EntreComp Edu, we came up with a framework, a professional competencies framework. Skills, what skills and knowledge does a teacher need to deliver EntreComp in their teaching? A self-assessment tool, a training program, and also practical examples of how teachers were doing it. This went forward then and this is underpinned by the framework. And you see here these 5 areas. And these 5 areas are something that probably any educator would recognize. I need to have knowledge and understanding of my subject. I need to be able to plan, organize, train, assess. I need to have professional learning and development. And so EntreComp Edu was about all of this, but for entrepreneurial education, how to embed these competencies in any teaching, in your teaching. And it put those 5 areas of competence, those teacher professional competencies, and underpinned those with some key principles. Because when we look at EntreComp, when we look at these 15 competencies like creativity, vision, it's difficult sometimes to see how these can be developed effectively. It sometimes is something that you might have, but we needed to find a way to really bring this out. So these were guiding principles. How can we create this kind of innovative education? How can we provide a simple set of tools that teachers can think about, use, evolve, adapt in order to get these competencies into their teaching, to make their teaching develop these innovative entrepreneurial competencies? So these are the 6 guiding principles. Creativity, put creativity. Are you putting creativity across your teaching? Do you bring the real world? Do you have active learning with real world relevance in your teaching? Do you encourage your students to collaborate through teamwork for real purpose in your teaching? Do learners understand how they create value for others? Values of social value, cultural value, economic value. What value do they create through their learning that is of relevance, that might be something that can be valued outside the classroom? Does that happen in your teaching? Does a teacher place a focus on reflection, learning from experience, having that moment to reflect back on the learning process? What competencies, what knowledge, how did they apply that knowledge? What happened during that learning process? Does that happen through your teaching? And then the visibility. Does your learner at the end of their learning experience realize what they developed? It's part of that reflection, but it's making it explicit, obvious for the teacher and the learner. They were creative. They did have vision, and that's where they had vision. And that visibility of the experience is about what empowers a learner, what gives the learner the strength of knowledge that they were creative, they could do it, they had ideas, they put them into practice, they created value for others. They could do it again and again and again, inside the classroom or in the wider world, for their community or for their employer or for their own idea, their own entrepreneurial career. So these examples here that you see, sorry that they're not in Spanish, are really about, it was important to illustrate that any teacher in their teaching can develop these competencies. And so Entrecomp Edu is a process that hopefully allows any teacher to see that they can develop these competencies in different ways through their teaching, not by changing everything, no, but by changing a few things, by reflecting as a teacher to say, what is it that I developed? How could I tweak that to make it a bit more entrepreneurial? Maybe I could tweak it a lot to make it really entrepreneurial. But step one, just a bit. And so we came this whole process, which around 700 educators from 52 countries went through in the last 2 years, including very happily a strong, very positive collaboration with the Pontifical University of Valparaiso, where the university brought in educators from 7 countries across Latin America. This was something that really allowed teachers to see where they could put these competencies in their curriculum and how that could be done to best effect, looking at their own professional competencies and then thinking, how can I introduce these principles that we spoke about into the curriculum? Now, Entrecomp is something that is used very widely across Europe and in different countries. I have conversations with many different countries on how they are introducing Entrecomp. Bantani has been involved from the very beginning in the design and the development of this framework. So you can see here just a few of the projects that are linked to this. And I think this is another one, Entrecomp Europe, which is really about system level implementation across the whole ecosystem of education and training, from primary to university level of education, but also employment and startup. And you can take a look at that one if that's of interest. But right now, we are now developing entrecomp.com. This is something that we worked with partners across the world, including the Pontifical University of Valparaiso and colleagues to explore how can we bring people together. So we are just launching this practice community. It's for all types of educator, and it's the Entrecomp community. all about entrepreneurial learning for these competencies across education, formal, non-formal, as well as employment and enterprise, and really trying to support through creating a learning platform with sharing of practices, connecting educators, and helping people learn from each other and from online courses like Entrecomp Edu to try and bring things together. And if you've got any questions, please contact me at my email. It's been a very positive experience to work with colleagues like Pablo and Aneres over the last couple of years to help us to evolve our work. We've learned a lot from the process, and entrecomp.com is a way that perhaps we can continue that journey. Certainly we will continue that journey with the Pontifical University of Valparaiso, but also perhaps it's something that colleagues here can join. It is not yet in Spanish. There are many resources there in Spanish, but it will be in Spanish soon. I should also mention that Pablo and Aneris are involved in Entrecomp Edu Cafe, and I have not put a slide in on this. I'm so sorry. Which is a monthly Spanish-speaking discussion cafe, are all about this entrepreneurial learning and different ways and opportunities of developing it through education. So this is something that I forgot to put a slide in on. I'm so sorry. But yeah, I hope that was interesting. Happy to take any questions or just pop me an email afterwards.
Okay. Thank you. Gracias. Muchas gracias, Elin, por tu presentación.
Thank you, Elin, for your presentation. At the end of this session, we will have the questions. So now we will give the floor to Gabriela. She's going to give her presentation now. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. First, to the university, I'm happy to be able to discuss the social entrepreneurship and how we generate these skills within the different institutions for higher education. I'm going to share my screen now. I think you can see it. Well, my name is Gabriela Carrasco. I'm the director of 2811, which is a platform for social and ecological change, where we try to generate competencies and skills for regeneration. And then we work with different institutions to transform into a transition that is greener and more just. And we generate spaces to generate solutions for some of the biggest challenges that we have in a social and ecological level. 2811 is an international platform. We were based in Chile in 2015, but now we have bases in Colombia, United States, and Germany. And we work with different institutions and organizations in countries in general in Latin America. Who we work with? In terms of higher education, we have worked with almost 60 institutions in different countries and in different levels. For some institutions, we've worked with really in changing some structures that they have inside to generate strategies to involve entrepreneurship and innovation in some of their areas. And with other institutions, we have worked in less deep levels, maybe giving training or workshops or some processes of insight transformation that are needed to be able to boost what we're going to talk now, which in our case is agency for change. So, or change making. I really like that this seminar is called Education for Entrepreneurship because it is really interesting to generate this differentiation between innovation and entrepreneurship and what is change making or agency for change. This ability that is broader, and through 2811, as Ashoka, the international organization that promotes entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship, we promote and we understand that everyone can be an agent of change, and we all have the capacity for the skills and the competencies. Some of these agents will be social innovators that will use social innovation as the motor for change. And some of them, some of these agents and social or innovators will be social entrepreneurships, and they will be developing their change through the market, through what the market is going to offer as a mechanism for change. And we are interested in doing these differentiations because maybe this is something that Elin also said. You have to understand that entrepreneurship can today generate specific abilities that are really important, but we also have to keep in mind that we have to focus on the people and that we are not necessarily from the institutions of higher education seeking for entrepreneurship, but maybe in a broader sense, we have to boost those capacities. So those people who want to innovate, who want to be entrepreneurship and can and want to generate these capacities, maybe we don't need something inside the institution because we know that many of these actions in the university will probably fail, and what we want to do is to generate people that have the capabilities to be able to be entrepreneurs. So generally we speak about this agent for change and how the institution for higher education have to focus on being able to generate the competences or skills to create this kind of people. And we are going to understand this agent for change as anyone that will take action to solve a problem, activate others, and also work to generate solutions that are for the greater good. And we're going to understand also education, or we're going to understand how the institutions can collaborate with the formation of agents for change when they also transform themselves in agents for change. We understand higher education not only as a space to transform the students, but also to transform the whole society, where you have deep changes through research and development, maybe working together with other institutions, collaboration, and also the institution that creates this agent for change. And we believe that education is fundamental for all the environmental and social changes that we want to see. And this helps first the students to develop self-consciousness, how they understand the community, and the capability to collaborate. Also, on the other hand, they give the opportunity to the students to impulse or boost social change, not only through the same methodology that they used to have, but also social justice and the commitment with the societies, and also to practice this being agent as they are in action and they activate some other agents. So education, to form this agent for change, they help them to practice and develop their abilities while they're practicing also how to generate these changes. We have seen, and Elin also said a little bit about this, and these skills, which are the skills that we talk about as the skills of the 21st century, maybe some others that we can mention, but we understand from Ashoka and 2811 that we need to develop certain skills within the institutions of higher education. And we have divided this in mentality, knowledge, and skills. And in the case of mentality, we see that it's necessary to have a conscious of yourself, to have empathy, to develop the respect for the different cultures, inclusion, and perseverance. From the knowledge, we think that it's necessary that the students will learn as an ethic for social change, about different approaches to social change, specifically in innovation and entrepreneurship, that they have to learn about systemic thought, methodological knowledge, and practical knowledge, and also that they develop relationships of trust, that they have the abilities of systemic thinking, creativity, adaptive communication, also skills of leadership to take care of themselves, which is really very important each day. Everywhere we see that we have to be careful and be warned about burned out, because we see many entrepreneurs that they are changing everything that is outside but not taking care of themselves, and some democratic skills which are also important in the context that we have today, with a lot of political polarization, and we need these agents for change to be able to develop these competences or skills, democratic skills, where we have some stronger conversations about what we need from the different environments. Now, regarding these skills, we had done some work with some of the teachers in higher institutions that we've worked with, and together with System B, we have a joint program to formation, which is called Academia B. We also have a program that is called Academy for Entrepreneurship and Innovation in early stages for social innovation, and also Commons program, where we develop and collaborate with different institutions to accelerate some projects from the institutions in social innovation. And we asked the teachers how much you develop these abilities in your classes, in your courses. And we had done some analysis with these 14 institutions. This study or research is ongoing, of course, and we are updating it constantly, but we've seen some like first results. As this identity for empathy, perseverance, and all the things that we said before, we can see that they develop a little bit more, or they are a little bit more aware inside the classrooms, in the institutions for higher education. This is quite average. It's not something that they all do, but maybe in secondary in education, they have already worked with this. In the ways of thinking, we have seen that creativity for problem solving is something that the teachers are trying to implement in their classrooms, but instead the focus on impact is something that they do not see in higher education, at least in these institutions that we work with. And now we see an opportunity again to maybe in those spaces where we are promoting change, where we are promoting creativity, maybe we can also boost focus on impact. And regarding the ways of interaction, we have seen that inclusion is something that is developing, and also the empowered leadership, inclusivity, and leadership are things that the teachers are promoting inside their classrooms in maybe more evident way. And what we see that is less developed is adaptive communication, which is something really important because of the context that we are living in today, the context that our students are in. And this is also a space to improve what we do inside the classrooms, how we develop this skill in our students. And now regarding the specific knowledges that we have, we see that the methodologies for social entrepreneurship, maybe because this is because of the sample that we have, but this, again, the teachers are more familiarized with, and they tend to implement it a little bit more, maybe the methodologies that we have developed in specific for social entrepreneurship. But we are not careful enough, the same as we said before, with self taking care of yourself and the team. These are skills that not necessarily are being developed the same as how you measure the impact, which is something that is not so developed, or we have no so much interest from the teachers. So when we think, or when we talk about this, and Elin also said a little bit about this, but when we talk about, I'm sorry, I do not have as much time as I thought, but when we speak about these skills that we have to generate, these skills from the students that we need to create, we also have to understand what are the competencies of the teachers to generate those skills. So here to finish, I would like to leave you some of the skills that we've seen that the teachers have to have. These features, or maybe skills again, that they have to have. They have to identify themselves as agents for change, that they have to understand themselves as agents for change, that they understand the challenges of this 21st century, that they go outside and understand what is really happening, and also that they understand about social innovation and social entrepreneurship, and that they have these abilities, that they know how to implement these tools, and that they have a profound knowledge of their disciplines, and they have to be able to reimagine or rethink the pedagogy, and they can change the systems that they have and develop new plans to be able to develop these competences or skills to facilitate change, and also to do alliances. Many times the teachers work on their own or isolated, and it's important to generate this partnership within the institution and also outside. And to finish, we've seen some of the things that the teachers have to do to be able to go forward and transform themselves into change agents for change. They have to reflect on their identity and their background, so they can understand themselves as these agents for change and reflect on how or why they are this way, to be in charge of their own growth and develop. And also they need to practice, they have to be hands-on, and they have to know what they are talking about when they act, they ask the student to act, to take advantage of the resources that they have in the different institutions. Elin showed something that is really sound and really evident. And third, to establish a community for support. This is really important, to have a network of support where every teacher can invite other teachers in a community where they can practice, they can talk to each other. And these seminars, these spaces are very important to acquire new knowledge and new networks, so we can build these communities to practice, so we can be better teachers, and it's easier for us to go forward. I don't think I have time to show my cases now, but or examples. You have my email address there if you have any comments or doubts, and that you would like to contact us. We will be happy to be able to talk to you. Thank you, Gabriela. This was very interesting. Thank you, Elin and Gabriela, for joining our seminar. And of course, at the end, we will have questions from the audience. So now we are going to the second part of the seminar, that is called Teaching Entrepreneurship at the Universities, a challenge for the teacher of the 21st century. For this, we will have a conversation with teachers from different areas of the knowledge. In the humanities, we welcome Daniela Lazcano. She's a journalist from the Pontifical Catholic University of Valparaiso. Her areas of specialization are oriented in communication theories, epistemology, and teaching of communication, and communication and dissemination of science. She currently works as an academic at the university Catholic University of Valparaiso. In representation of the area of engineering, we welcome Constance Fleet, Civil, Industrial, and Electrical Engineering from the Pontifical University of Valparaiso, where she is currently Associate Director of the Engineering Research and Innovation Department. We also welcome Eduardo Baeza, Transportation Engineer and academician of the School of Construction and Transportation Engineering of the Pontifical Catholic University of Valparaiso. He teaches land transportation courses and explores related research topics. He also encourages and teaches innovation and entrepreneurship in his courses. We also welcome Pamela Hermosilla. She's civil engineering and computer sciences from the Universidad Técnica Federico Santa Maria, who is doing research in the field of innovation competencies in engineering. She currently works as an academic at the School of Computing Engineering at the Pontifical Catholic University of Valparaiso. Also, Arturo Grau, surgeon from the Universidad of Santiago de Chile and specialized in ophthalmology at Pontifical Catholic University of Chile, where he currently teaches. He was also part of the creative team and is currently a member of the coordination of the Laboratory of Social Innovation in Visual Impairment, OcuLab UC. So now we invite Pablo Zamora, the Director of Innovation and Entrepreneurship of our university, where he also works as a teacher. So welcome again. Thank you, Anedes. Thank you to our panelists. We have a lot of people here, 23 teachers and also some directors of our university and some other universities. So we are very happy for this network that we are generating. We are going to ask a little bit about yourself. Maybe you can tell us in depth, what is your experience that you have developed in entrepreneurship in different disciplines? So Daniela is going to be the first from humanities. Maybe this is a little bit far away from the entrepreneurship idea that we have, but maybe we can talk about how we imprint a new significance to all of this. Thank you, Pablo. Welcome. Everyone that is hearing this and listening to us today, I'm really happy for this invitation. And yes, I'm a journalist. I work at the humanities areas as I was invited to represent my area of knowledge. So I'm not really sure if in the case of journalism, you can do the analogy or maybe taking it into other areas of social sciences, because we have to think about the context, what is going on with our profession, journalism and communication, where maybe from some time now we have a trend in our curriculum, not only in my school, but in many other schools of journalism throughout the country, where journalism is starting to live with this idea of innovation and entrepreneurship. So from our experiences, maybe thinking about the interdisciplines, maybe thinking about informatics, maybe development of certain programs for communication. In our particular case, for our school, from some years, our curriculum or what we're using today, the program that we're using, and this new curriculum that we're going to implement from the next year is going to also consider this. Within our plan, we have some courses that are oriented to the development of different projects and how you build a project. So from some years, the formation stages in our university is thinking in some of the courses how you can prepare, or the students can prepare to the world of where they have to formulate different projects. And you have to think about this in context, what is going on with our profession. It is no secret for anyone that all the media are in a crisis, in a moment of crisis, and we have new spaces for the development of the profession. We have new medias, we have new ways of develop this field of this professional field, and we have to think about entrepreneurship now. And this is also linked to some other concepts that are considered also as part of information, what we talked about in the previous talks: creativity, innovation, and how you can adapt to the change. This is also an important part of formation or professional formation, and in the case of journalism is the same. Daniela, what did you do with your students? Well, what we did, and this is the reason why I'm invited here, is because we did a project with funds from the university from a project that is called Innova en el Aula, and the students of the last semesters, which are the ones that I have to coordinate, they have the opportunity to develop a project for entrepreneurship. And this is a course where they have to do a report that gets together the pragmatical and the theory part, something that they can see as an innovation or improvement in their internship, a new section in a media or anything that they could think about. So they had the opportunity of doing something that is not necessarily related to the practice that they did or what they had to do, but something that motivates them as a personal project. So this is not the first time that we implemented this. It's not isolated. It has to do with trying to link this with what we've been developed throughout their formation. We had a lot of students, 23 and 16 opted by this modality. We had 4 teachers giving mentorship in this modality, and they had the opportunity to develop project of entrepreneurship. This is what we did, and this was the first time that we did something like this. But we try to think about this within the context of what we've done. So we wanted to give them the opportunity to obtain their certification through this project. So now we will give the space to the next panelist. We're going to move a few kilometers to Santiago, and we are going to go into the engineering school. So now we're going to talk about the junior. Tell us, please, about the experience that you've had. I'm going to share my screen now. Okay. I'm going to tell you a little bit what is going on outside the classroom. This is something that is going on inside and outside the classroom, and what we've been doing in the School of Engineering. As a reference or context, the size is about 5,000 students and 1,000 postgraduates. So it is relevant that we can implement this within the formation of these students, and this will have an impact in what is going on in the country afterwards. So this is the ecosystem of innovation in our school that looks for making professionals with the capacity of innovation and entrepreneurship, and also to increase this what is going on inside the schools, inside the classrooms and the laboratories, to put this into the context of society. This started in the year 2011. We had direction of innovation. It was not made overnight, but after 10 years of working here and with the support of Corfo, with the program Engineering 2030, and now we have a lot of stakeholders and different resources and programs to implement this finally. And now, what we did, how we did this. First, we thought that we need to educate and inspire all the students of engineering. So what we do is that in our curriculum we have three key moments where all the students are exposed to different methodologies related to innovation and entrepreneurship. In the first year, as Pablo said, the juniors, as they, I mean, the ones that are getting into the university, they have a teaching course where they have to design a product that will solve a real problem. They have to work together in a team, and they have to overcome all the challenges of communication, design, and everything. And then we have in the third year the students that have a little bit more knowledge about this technology, and they have to create a product that is a service, and they have to create an entrepreneurship project. And we have these students developing these projects with basis that is in science, based in science and technology, and they have to see an opportunity, they have to design a solution, build a prototype, and build also a model of business that is going to be sustainable, because we want them to know that they have to think not only about how they construct or they build this, but everything that is involved in this entrepreneurship project, and how they can fund. For instance, they can obtain funds on what they want to do with the profit. How can you insert this in a chain of value? How the people will see these changes? Why is it important or not? And then at the end of the fourth year, we at the school we have this system of minors and majors, as in the curriculum in the United States, where they have a major in the first 4 years, and they will close with a course that is of applied engineering, where they have to design a project where they practice again all the tools and resources that they have before. So what is relevant is how in different points of their formation they are going to practice all these competences and abilities for entrepreneurship, and they can apply it throughout their whole education. So the highlight that we have in this is this course in the third year, the creation of technological entrepreneurship. We have over 1,000 projects that have also, after the course, they continue going on, and they have already built companies, so they are very successful. This is not a startup incubator, but the idea is to give all the students of engineering the skills that they need to face this ever-changing world. So every challenge that they have, maybe they want to create a new company in the private or public sector, so they will have the skills to be able to face these uncertainties and develop a project. So these courses are a mixture that are very integrated between the theories, the academic theories, and elements that have to do with entrepreneurship. So we take some elements of the incubators and we mix them in the classes, and we have a process with one teacher inside the classroom and with a real entrepreneur from the real life, and they go together through this whole process where they can reflect and learn. Then the second view that we have, where we want all to understand what is innovation, and they can have a deeper knowledge on what they have. We have this minor or 70, no, this major of 70 credits, where they can identify the opportunities, they can develop processes in different organizations, and we have the option of a minor in technological innovation, which is a set of tools and methodologies to be able to transform all the technologies into products and services that you can take into real life. And the last thing that we need to look at is that if we want to give everyone the opportunity, we want also to support everyone that decided to be an entrepreneur. So we have this invisible curriculum, which is a set of programs that are outside the curriculums that we actually do inside the university, but which are complementary to the projects within these courses. So these are lines that are going to give continuity to what is going on. So maybe the students will have an early project or maybe advanced project related to technologies of information or whatever, and they can continue these projects once they finish the courses with this ecosystem that we have strengthened, and with programs within university or maybe in the national system. So we have some examples of the program. I'm not going to review them right now, but the value that we have is that we seek to integrate this invisible and visible curriculum to potentiate this system of innovation. So we have a clear route of what we have in our courses. We have these programs that are outside the program of the university that can help you in your project. For instance, we have this project from the third year students that are being elaborated by biopackaging. This is a new material that they developed from the residuals of beer industry, so we can build this circular economy. And this was at the end of the course, and they participated in a showcase where they have a pilot now in a brewer company. So we have some examples of the people who won this contest. And also I would like to talk again about this ecosystem that is not only integrated, but they also have this feedback from one another. So we have this design where the students that are motivated to continue with these projects can participate in this invisible curriculum, and they can learn a lot more. They continue to develop their entrepreneur capital, and once they are there, we have an example of students that went to Boston and China. They come back to Chile and they are agents for change, where the knowledge that they have, and they participate in these courses and they talk about what they've gained. So we have this circuit where the participants are the same entrepreneurs, students that wanted to do an entrepreneurship project, and they can help us now as helpers, or they are also facilitators in this process. So our message is basically that we have to look for how everything is integrated and not isolated outside the classroom only. Great, thank you very much, Constance, for talking about this combination about this formal and invisible curriculum. Now we're going to talk about the engineering school with an experience that is international, a challenge that two teachers of our university worked in. And we see here how it's possible to have a common purpose and work together as teachers and work in the same space for innovation. So we want to know you and know a little bit about more your story. Pablo and everyone, I say hi to all the teachers that are listening to us. I'm Eduardo Baeza. I work for the university also with Pamela Hermosilla for the informatics and the School of Engineering. We're going to show you our experience after what we've done and worked a little bit about in this world of entrepreneurship. We would like to show our view of the process, what are our motivations and the links that we've generated, and how we see this relationship as sustainable. My greetings to you all. Thank you for the invitation. We're going to start telling you about what are our motivations to work with Eduardo. I personally teach in the first and fourth year of the major, and these are two different worlds. But something that is in common in these last years had to do with the initiative of the students, how they want to come from the theory to the practice. So everything that has to do with entrepreneurship and being able to transform theory in something concrete is part of something that they really want. I've seen this from the first year. I have been teaching in the first year for several years now, and I've seen this change. So this is a motivation that comes with the students and is transfers to the teachers, where they say, I don't want to write a document, but I want to do something pragmatic with my hands. So we have a lot of challenges from the society that invite us to solve these problems. As teachers, we see that we don't need anymore to be sit down and discuss a document. We have to look at the challenges that we have, look around, and be able to explain these needs to the students. Eduardo and I are working in this dynamic together. Because of my formation in the computer world, I see everything that is related to technology. So in these areas, this is fundamental and transversal. So they have noticed that the students have noticed that they can participate in different areas. So we are working, we are in this semester working together with Eduardo in this project, and we realized that it is possible to do this. And this has been a very good experience for both levels. So from our point of view of the university, we have advanced in the area a lot. We have a lot of options to participate from the UMDU, from the school, and we've seen a lot of options on different projects with everyone putting their collaboration. And we start from the experience that we started last year with Eduardo within the school, the classroom, and this year we're working in something else together. And the ecosystems that we have here in the university is also working. And in particular terms, I would like to mention some of our collaborators like Makerspace and the Lift, because they are always supporting us. So this is my motivation to be here in this joint initiative. My case is very similar. As you start to immerse yourself into some problems, because you start from the acknowledge that you can do things, right? And you are looking at your students and you see that they have these skills and they can do things. As Constance said before, from the first years you see that they have this potential. So we see a lot of instruments and tools that give the first approximation that we had in the 2016, the project Innova, where we started doing some things in the year 2019, sorry, where everything coincide with the areas of skills that the students have to develop. And also the experience of maybe participating in projects of innovation with some other actors of the system. And this opens your vision and is a good motivation to do new things. So we have here again the instruments that the university give us with different projects. So Pamela and I met some years ago and we discussed what we were doing, and we got together with some other teachers, and now we're taking advantage of these ecosystems that we have. And we have some big projects, of course, but there are some other projects that we can work on. So we have the support of the university, and they are always like supporting you and work together. So within this recognition from the university, we have an experience that Pamela and I had to participate in March, and we have an opportunity to be able to visualize and know some other colleagues from the university in Chile, which are doing the same. And they are teaching in this innovative way. So the link that we can identify is within the competitions that we have in these projects, and allowed us to meet each other, to know each other better. And after this meeting, we thought, how can put this into practice and what can we do? We also participate in the symposium of Babson, and from that we could gather some different elements. Within these elements, what we want to keep at the level of university, we're always in these opportunities where we can share experiences, but to be concrete and say, let's do something together. So we would like to talk about what happened during these 2 weeks. Constance was also there with us. It was a great experience for everyone that had the opportunity to participate, and we thank Pablo again because he gave us the opportunity to participate. And briefly, I want to say there was a lot of information during these 2 weeks. So some important aspects are the reflection. Elin and also Graciela, I think, mentioned, was part of the process. This is like a machine where we never stop to reflect, right? To stop and think about what is learning. So learning regarding innovation and entrepreneurship. So this was very clear during this symposium. Another thing has to do with the interdisciplinary knowledge, and we were students somehow, and we worked with different disciplines, and we made the most of what we had to accomplish the task that we needed to complete during that week. We worked a lot about the skills for the teachers and teaching skills. Everything is really related here in what we've talked, to be able to boost and support the students. We have to start as teachers, as entrepreneurs and innovators. Maybe we didn't have the best formation in these areas because now we see these words in the curriculum, but we never seen them before. They were not explicit in the curriculums. So we have to see how we jump from thought to action. So this is in the invitation that we do, regardless of what the experience is, we have to learn something. So what we rescue from everything that we've seen is the importance of a business model. As engineering, in our case in particular, we have to think a little bit more about what is the administration and being able to share experiences with other disciplines. And also the art of pitch, which is something that is introduced already in our courses, and in the symposium we had to do a pitch also, and we counted with the support of Pablo and the different institutions in the university. Pablo has done some workshops where they teach us to do our good pitch, so the students have to have this knowledge no matter if they're going to participate in any competencies or initiatives. So now, after we finished this experience, we thought, how can we put this into practice? So in this semester, I had this course of highway transportation, and with Pamela, we were thinking how these students can be integrated. So we thought about, uh, we had a dialogue, a design, where in each one of these processes, from this course in specific or the course of engineering in software, we try to think where they can meet each other. So the idea was that my students will be the entrepreneurs, and they will create something related with the transportation in highways. So they had to solve a problem, a project that will have a component of technological innovation. So we have this group of students that will be consultants in informatics, and they could satisfy these needs. So we had 7 initiatives. Each one of them will be connected for a group of consultants in informatics, and they will help to develop a tool that will facilitate entrepreneurship, maybe an app or maybe an element that will give automatization to some processes. It's not part of the entrepreneur project, but it's part of the innovation. So we've done many tasks together to start to know each other, to give all the requirements for on the one hand and receive them and satisfy them. We have organized two symposiums where we had engineers of transportation and informatics or communication engineers, and we shared the experiences that they have, and they talk to each other, and they are seeing how they can work together, and they are participating in different initiatives. So we have these courses in the plan for assessment. We have some elements that coincide. The students of Pamela are going to evaluate my students in some areas and in the relationship of the client and the consultants, for instance. So to be more specific, what we've done and where we are right now. First, we identified these challenges and needs from the area of transportation, where Eduardo was giving his course of highway transportation, where we have these initiatives that the students are developing. These had to have a technological component, and my students from the workshop of engineering software will take the students as the clients. So we do a role play, of course, and as Eduardo were mentioning, we had some experiences with innovation from ex-students. Some of them is one of the first generations of the major, and it was really something rich for them to see as how informatics engineer will get together with some other, and they will need again to do this integration. We also had this workshop for pitch. Pablo was giving our support, and I worked with the lift. Carolina Bugueño made the workshop, and they have to finish with the pitch. And in this, something that was also mentioned before had to do with the abilities or skills that they have for entrepreneurship and innovation. Maybe they are really motivated, but sometimes there are things that are not quite developed. So in this sense, we took what we learned the last year in the course Incentiva 2020. In this workshop, we worked with an element, or we designed an element that will allow us to measure how their abilities were or where they were. So we applied also this to the students for transportation engineering and engineer of technologies of information, and we assess the pragmatical part, the practice, the interpersonal or social, and also reasoning and administration. We have 10 abilities, and from these 10 abilities they have these solutions, and they obtain these graphics where you can see what are the abilities or skills that are more prevalent. The ones that are closer to the extremes are valued in a higher way, and of course the ones that are in the center, the idea is that you have this graphic in some sort of circle where you have all the skills in a more or less equal way. But the idea is that they have their self-diagnosis or self-assessment. We implemented with this the project of the last year, this methodology, and in the left part you have a student of execution, and we have here in the right part the transportation students. So this graphic can allow us to see this from these 4 areas that we already determined. So we can see in a general way leadership, for instance, in transportation. In the particular of these students, we don't have an average yet to give more general conclusions, but we have 2 samples, 2 students, and in the case in particular of leadership, this is lower in one case than in the other. So in the case of dedication, is higher in transportation instead of informatics. So we are undergoing a term yet. We haven't finished, And we have different projects with Eduardo where they can evaluate each other, and we will have a result at the end of this experience, and we can adjust maybe so we can repeat it the next semester. So this was a really good experience, Pamela, and we're going to talk about the assessment tool that you developed. And thank you for your presentation, and we're going to give the floor for the last panelist, Arturo Grau, from the area of health, which seems to be very far away from entrepreneurship. But Arturo is going to tell us how we integrate this in the curriculum and how is it possible to develop unit within the major and the schools that can boost this. So Arturo, welcome. We want to listen to you, to your presentation, and we remind every attendee that you can put your questions in the chat box. So at the end of this part, we will start with the conversation related to all the questions that you have. So Arturo, welcome. Thank you for your invitation. It's an honor, and I really love to present on this topic, and I hope this will show how proud we are of these projects, and we would like to work together. So today you saw the news. The Minister of Energy and Resources of Water in Israel couldn't go into today's meeting because the COP was not accessible for her in a wheelchair. So the classical hater people said maybe they didn't say about the condition of the minister, but a modern building should have access for people that use a wheelchair. So many young people say, I would love to do what this unicorn company did, that they were big entrepreneurships. But what we are saying to our students is that you don't necessarily need to be an innovative or entrepreneur that gains a lot of money because of these projects, because if you are a real and good professional, maybe it will be interesting to seek for a future that has meaning, projects that are above what is convenient. So in my case, within medicine and as an ophthalmologist in particular, I asked to myself, what is being a social doctor, or what does a doctor do that is social? I work in a public hospital, I have a foundation, something like that. But the real question is, can we do something else that is not clinical, or maybe do surgery in isolated parts of the world? But if you think what is going on in Chile, the numbers are really terrible, because there are over 2 million people that have some disability. And if we center in people that is older than 60 years old, 1 from every 4 has some sort of disability. So Chile will be like a country after the Second World War. And we can compare this to how every society is identified with disabilities. And in general, many countries, including Chile, we identify with the rehabilitation model. Teletón, for instance, which is a very huge institution, had taught us that rehabilitation is something that is really important. But these people with disabilities have implemented this social model, because they say it doesn't matter what kind of disability I have, because it's the social part that is going to disabilitate me. Is there a place where we can develop in an effective way? And I think that innovation is the reply for this, and social innovation in particular. In this context, with a group of colleagues, we thought about creating this project, which is called Oculab UC, and this laboratory has the particularity that is interdisciplinary. I'm the only doctor within this group. We do not see patients, but we work with people that have some visual disability, and we do not work for them, but with them. So our dream is to grow as a group and being able to define the real necessities of disabled people and have a clear vision about this. What do? We create initiatives and opportunities for social innovation in different areas. We have been working in 4 areas for work. And today I would like to say what is Oculab information, how we link to the work in the university. Some years ago, we won funds from Corfo, and we have another project that is called Almasigo, which is funds for our projects again. We have worked with the astronomy, creating inclusive models for the children to learn about astronomy. We have done some courses and established conversations about what is being a woman or with a disability during the pandemic time. Some years ago, we worked again with a project that is called Aldea, which is a project for inclusion, cultural inclusion, with the open museums in the city of Valparaiso. I've been worked with within the university. With the religious part of the university, we developed a project that had to do with children with low vision, with problems of vision. So um, we worked in the metropolitan area, working with the different senses, like the noise, for instance. During the pandemic, we were also asked about what is going on with women and disabled people. So we participated in an interview in a podcast from BBC some months ago. And as a group, we're working together with the Faculty of Medicine of the University of Valparaiso, and we are following the GATMENTS, which is a program from another country, and we're complementing this idea with the professional part. I try to talk about the bioethics and self-care, not only to learn how to operate or do a surgery, but also thinking about social innovation. So within this initiative, we get together with the real experts, 2811 and Ashoka, and we created this course with the university where we invited the students to develop some projects and being experts in social innovation. So the idea was to prepare groups of interdisciplinary group. So someone from the medicine with social workers, for instance, will think about different initiatives. And we did that last year, and we did this again this year. And we worked in this with La Triada project, where we work with universities and some other countries. We grew with the teachers that we work with and the different students that we work with, and we set this challenge of what is going on and how can we give different solutions during the problems that we have for the pandemics that had to do with HIV and the children with autistic disorders, for instance. So the last year we had some students that are helping us today. We have filtered our curriculum and the methodologies that we have to teach, and I insist this work is interdisciplinary in the teaching aspect and also in the learning aspect. So it's been a huge challenge, and we are happy that we're working with the School of Medicine, which is our host somehow, and also with the triad of different universities that we're working with. So thank you again for the opportunity. We hope we can answer some of your questions. Thank you, Arturo, for your clear and brief presentation. We're going to open now the panel for conversation, and we're going to start with that. Arturo, in fact, what do you think is the most beneficial part of integrating innovation and entrepreneurship in the formation of your students, and what happens to you as a teacher? What is the benefit that you've obtained in a personal or academic level? I think that what's been important is getting out from theory somehow. I think that what is going on with innovation, particularly with social innovation and many academic aspects that had to do with everything that we're talking about today, emulates a little bit what is going on with the social networks. We have a lot of experts that were born during the pandemic, for instance. So I think one of the biggest challenges that we have in the university is that you do not accomplished to get together all the teachers. I'm sure that many teachers are not aware of what they are doing in their office that is 500 meters away from their classroom or their offices. It's not like doing a map of the initiatives or needs, but we have to build a network. So this is one of our triumphs, to be able to connect, to understand what everyone is doing, that a teacher that teaches humanities can get together with a design teacher. So maybe an ophthalmologist can work with an architect and get together and talk and do projects that are interdisciplinary. And me personally have learned that I can have a style of doing medicine, doing teaching that is really different. I like to operate, I like to work in the hospitals, but this is a space that always dream that I will have, but I thought it didn't exist. I thought that social innovation had to do with engineering, but not with medicine. So this is, to sum up, my answer. So, taking your words, I'm going to ask Daniela this. Being an educator that is also an entrepreneur, you can explore your creative side, of course, but maybe Daniela can comment on how you feel about this. Thank you, Pablo. Everything was very, very interesting to hear. This is really motivating how to know what they are doing in the different areas. I was listening to Arturo and I was thinking about the concept that I first listened from you, Pablo, that you can be an entrepreneur as a teacher. And I'm going to confess something. I've been having trouble with the concept of entrepreneurship. What is entrepreneurship as a concept? For some reason, maybe that Arturo said, you associate entrepreneur to some other areas. I listen Eduardo, Constance, and Pamela, and I say, yes, they are going to talk about innovation or entrepreneurship. But besides, also because of the issue of associating entrepreneurship to what is profitable. When I know what is the dimension of social entrepreneurship and innovation, I recognize that there is an articulation of this new meaning that Pablo was talking about, and I feel more comfortable in the concept. And I understand now the concept in a different way. So in that way, I think that boosting initiatives like this makes us more aware of what is going on and being more innovative and going outside the parameters that we have. So again, thinking about the what Arturo said, what is the academy that I like to do? Yes, this is the teaching that I like to do. We know what we've been doing and it's proven and it works, but we would like to do something different, to be curious, to think about different and new ways of doing something that was already implemented in a certain way. And why? Because in my experience, at least the students that participated in this initiative repeat a lot of the concepts of what my colleagues have been saying. They are motivated, they feel empowered of their own creativity, and at least from the students that thought about this project as to obtain their certifications, there was a huge cause and motivation from them. So how can I be uh, motivated within my area? And when they see this is a very positive feedback for them and give us the opportunity to continue innovating inside the classroom. Great, this is something that is reciprocal. So you form as students and as at the same time you are forming yourself as a teacher. So this is very powerful. The articulation, the network, how can you connect with teacher from other areas? Eduardo, Pamela, I would like to ask you, what are the challenges that you find when you try to connect with other teachers? Are there some barriers? How do you see this? First, I think this is a big challenge, but it's easier if the teachers that are in the same stage as you are, in the same state of mind. So what I think that is important is an issue of logistics and coordination. Maybe the classes are not so big, there are not too many students, but this is an additional task. So it's a lot of work, and it's not something so small because you are used to do your classroom or your class in the dates that you have on your own. So to try to coordinate this in a very domestic way with of the assessments, for instance, with other teachers are very difficult. So this is one of the barriers that I see. This is something that is difficult. Maybe the additional effort that you have to do outside what you have to do as a teacher in your course. But from the point of view of what is easy maybe, or the advantages that we see, I believe that the students feel more motivated. I really believe this, and I think that it generates a bigger commitment from the one that is the client, for instance, or the entrepreneur, in the case of the experience that Eduardo and I talked about. So I think this is a bigger commitment because I have to respond to someone that is not in my classroom, but is someone from another major. So this is something that the students really value. Thank you, Pamela. Constance, you have the microphone. Well, in our case, we work with a lot of networks, different networks, because what we seek in our course is that the students can realize that they cannot assume their own perceptions as an absolute reality. So the way that we can challenge this and we can somehow decipher this truth that they have is to go outside and talk with a lot of people. So they interview many different persons during the semester. We do mentorships where we have some other companies that come inside the classroom and they talk a lot with the students. They ask them how they feel, what they're doing. So during the whole semester, they receive a lot of information, subjective information from different point of view. And this is the complexity. How can we help them to manage this huge load of information where and they do not lose their spirit, and they do not refuse to listen to what the other is saying. So we have this feedback, and they have to think, what how much can I take from what I've heard and how much can I leave outside. So for the teacher, it's really complex to guide them, and not giving them answer but listening to them and maybe give them orientation on how to accept and integrate what the others are saying. This is a very interesting process. And some other important thing in this ecosystem that they participate in is to realize that the projects are more complex than designing a solution. Beyond the profits, they have to think how this is going to be sustainable, how they can make this, how can this insert this into reality. And that means going outside and see how thing works, and talking to people, and being all the time in different spaces and listening to some different points of view. So this is very important. Eduardo, I'm going to ask a question from the chat, and I'm sure that you have the answer, or maybe you can share your experience. It has to do with the concept of motivation, because maybe there is a huge component of motivation from the students, but nevertheless, it seems that these generations are, or the gap between the generations is a little bit difficult to face. How can you motivate the students to get involved in these themes? And is there any tools or resources that you have implemented that are successful? Yes, one of the difficulties that I've seen in the system was keeping the formation within the curriculum, because there is no link with the program that you have in the system of evaluation. So it's unlikely to sustain this in time. And as you said, motivation is really, really complex because you can notice motivation at the beginning of the courses and you have the ideas and we are discussing them and we know things, and if you don't know this, ideas are not worth it unless they become actions. So you need to have the motivation to say, okay, I'm going to go outside my zone of comfort, outside this class, and I'm going to put this discussion in the hands of my students. So the motivation is like a horse that is running a race. You run out of breath, you start very with a lot of velocity and motivation at the beginning, but then half of the way you lose your energy. So you have to coach somehow your students, and it's really demanding. You put a lot of energy into this, and you have to think how to make this sustainable, how this system maybe can count on certain professional support, because the students will apply to a project, for instance, and they gain the funding and they do not know what to do with their funding they have won, right? So we have to support them. We have to think about the ecosystem they are inserted in, and we have to work with different people, and you have to assume the cost of this, of how you support the children or the students and they maintain their role. Now we have a new question from Eric. He congratulates you for your talks, but he's asking about the ethical aspects of responsible innovation. So I would like to ask Arturo how you face this aspect, ethics in innovation and entrepreneurship. Yes, I think one of the things that we talked with Osvaldo Soto from 2811, how can we think about this? Because it's really different. How do you get the ideas from one student of medicine or engineering or other areas? These are cultural themes, things that are there from the beginning. And a student of engineering, if he give or make a project, it will be part of the pattern somehow of this project. An engineering student will never think that they are going to be part of this within his pre-graduate preparation. So this is very vertical. They do not have the initiative of saying, this is my project. So it was interesting to start talking about this. What are the limits of this? What happens if a student says, this is my idea, and I'm going to take it outside the university? Or maybe they are thinking, my teacher is taking advantage because he wants to um, hold, trying to steal my project. So bioethics and ethics in medicine are really dull, very boring. You imagine an old guy talking about the ethics of Aristotle, for instance, but with positive examples, you can make your students feel more enthusiastic. Maybe you have someone here to talk about this with the student. We have teachers that are really generous, that will give you, like, if you write something, you will be the author and you can publish. So this is something that is really starting, and we have to consider ethics within these projects. I try in all of my initiatives into education thinking about bioethics, and I have a master's degree. My project was Oculab that I talked to you about. um, I try to put this seed of ethics and bioethics in all of the projects, and the students are learning that this is part of being professional. Thank you, Arturo. Constance had raised her hand, and maybe you can complement the following question, which is, what is the role of innovation in education? I wanted to complement about this question because the ethics had a lot to do with entrepreneurship. On one hand, entrepreneurship these startups is a company that is defined as a company that has an accelerated growth because they are working in an uncertainty environment, and that puts a lot of pressure in the entrepreneurs. How can you obtain this accelerated growth, and the dilemmas with the patents, maybe with the partners, and how you can distribute the profits, for instance. Well, I worked a lot in my classrooms. In Netflix, you have a lot of stories that talk about this. Another important component is what is the impact of a new technology, for instance. If I develop a new system of facial recognition, what is the impact that this can have in discrimination, for instance? Or if I develop some sort of technology on online education, how can this not increase the educational gap of people that do not have access to these technologies? And there are lots of other dilemmas that can be talked about, and we have very entertaining conversations. There are some methodologies to explore these areas of risk. How can you add technologies that are not existent yet to this new life? We have discussed a lot about bioethics, and Arturo, I'm sure, has a big list for examples, and we talked about this. So we give a class, for instance, to talk about this. In my case, the engineering has to do with applied sciences. So we look for taking this spirit to apply science to products or services or development that help to the well-being of the whole society. So how can we link this learning that the students are having in their different areas of disciplines and the different departments to transform this in a value that can be given to people to improve their quality of life? Excellent, Constance. And to finish, we're going to make an exercise for closing, like a small pitch, maybe. Maybe you can tell us in 30 seconds the history of a project of your students, for instance, something that you remember that made sense for you, maybe postgraduate as you wish, maybe from previous years, but some experience that you had. We're going to start with Eduardo. Maybe there is something that you remember. The semester is over, and you thought to yourself, it was worth it to give this course. The second semester of last year, we had discussed this problem of accessibility for transportation in Valparaiso. One of the winning teams worked with people that had some visual disability. What about the infrastructure and the lack of will to improve these services? They organized themselves and they presented their pitch, and it was great. With this team, everything was transformed, and we created a group for innovation, and they applied for funding, and they modified their project, and now they are trying to complete this. And they have taken some turns, but always in the framework of innovation in a social project, in this case for people with visual disabilities. Thank you, Eduardo. Daniela, any project from these 16 majors? Not one, but not 16. But we have a certain logic somehow. It was worth it to develop this modality to see how the students can develop or can design a possible project for journalism project that will channel their motivations and their passions. To see projects that at the end will reflect the passion of one student that during the whole formation played basketball, for instance, and see how basketball, which was his passion, apart from his professional development, he could get these two things together develop this project, or maybe another student that were motivated by the area of or how to generate journalistic spaces to hear the voices of the senior citizens. This made worth it to open these spaces so they can think about their profession from what is their biggest motivation, which is their social commitment and their real calling. So Constance, maybe you can tell us about the experience of one student of a group of students that is important to you. Beyond the idea of the project itself, because we have a lot of good projects, but there is one project that was very important to me because I realized that we installed a new behavior. Some students were facing the challenge of engineering for environmental change or climate change. So this was a washing machine that will disinfect clothes. They worked in the year 2019 and they went to China through the invisible curriculum and they got stuck there because of the pandemic. They came back to Chile and we didn't have this access to the implements that we needed to protect ourselves, like the face masks, for instance. So they take this washing machine that we talked about with that function with light, and they build this machine and they distribute them in different hospitals with and also to the firemen force and in different places where they do not have a way to disinfect the things and they didn't have a place to buy the things that they needed, sorry. So this is something that is very important to me because these students were very connected with reality. They felt really empowered because they were part of a solution, and they changed the project that they have to a project that responded to an urgent need that was born in that moment. So they acted quickly, they built it, they thought about it, and they inserted very well in a real environment. Thank you. That ability and that uh, way that they can adapt to the times. This is something that is characteristic for what we are doing. Arturo, anything that you can remember? In general, the projects of our students are particularly very sensitive, especially when they have to do with disabilities. One thing is that the masters in advanced design of our university, it was not the project, but maybe the thing that they were thinking about, maybe develop a GPS system to allow people to get to a specific place. But when they get together with a mother that has children with disability, and they ask, what about what you're doing? No, we can move around very easily, but the streets are very are not the best to move a wheelchair about. And I have these students that are working with this in very beautiful projects, and they are working with children within the autistic spectrum, and we have some very good projects there. And since it is situated within the pandemic scenario, we are also trying to help these children in the aspects of education. How can they learn to have relationships with other people and also with their schoolmates? I cannot tell more. I cannot give you any more details, but this is really important to me. Thank you. We see how you are really touched by what your students are doing, and we are going to give now the floor to Pamela. Thank you, Pablo. They have mentioned a lot of aspects, and I have a lot of projects, but I'm going to mention one that has to do with the interdisciplinary aspect. It was not something that we intended in the course. This is a project that is called SAMSO. This is a bicycle, a static bicycle that is going to be implemented in the public spaces or parks where the children can do some exercises or exercise. Um, so this is within the framework of the class that I'm giving with Eduardo. They had to look for a challenge and they got together from in the design career or major, and they had a project or a product that had different prototypes. They participated in the school of where we do every year, and it was really interesting how we have different projects that can be converted into different projects and entrepreneurial projects. So this is to boost the physical activity. They will move these bicycles to make energy from movement. So this is a way to exercise, to motivate the kids to exercise in the public spaces. So thank you, Pamela. Thank you again to all of the panelists. It was a really interesting and good conversation, and we have a lot of knowledge here. So I'm going to give space to Anaris to close this first seminar, and we hope this is the first of many. Thank you again, Pablo. We would like to thank all the participants of this conversation, Daniela, Constance, Eduardo, Pamela, and Arturo. And thank you for giving your or sharing your experience with us. We hope this is really useful for all the teachers to form the professionals that we will have in the future tomorrow. Thank you, Elin and Pamela, for talking about the formation from an international perspective. The videos, sorry, will be sent to everyone that signed up for this seminar and we will also give you access to the YouTube channel. Thank you again for your participation, and we see each other in the next seminar.